Well, so today's topic is, do you think that the Tesla bulls, at least some segment of them, are getting scared? You've seen at least one pretty prominent bull yesterday say that they've sold 20% of their shares. The reason is because they feel like in the annual shareholder meeting, it can go really sideways if the vote goes against Elon in both of the votes for the reincorporation into Texas and also reinstating, ratifying the 2018 comp plan, that Elon would then leave and then he will take with him somehow the technology. People will quit. And then Tesla will now become a car company in the future. Maybe it'll make 5 million, 10 million cars, but that's about all that it'll be able to do. So that spooked some bulls, and they felt that that was the main potential outcome. Let's talk about different kinds of outcomes. There's many different gray areas in between that can happen as well. And then there's also the other side of it. Elon in, what is it now, 2022, 2 years ago, he said, I will not let you down no matter what it takes. And then a number of people reposted that. Alexander Mertz put a bullseye to that. And then Elon Musk actually liked Alexander's repost of that tweet. So Elon saying, I will not let you down no matter what it takes. It's just a little bit of a hint. Of course, he's not allowed to say things at this point. I don't know, actually. There's probably some things he is allowed and something he isn't allowed. So let's talk about that. Are people overreacting? And certainly, I think all of us would agree here that people can absolutely do whatever they want to do with their shares. You should sell them, you should buy them, you should not do anything. It's up to you. No one here is telling you you did the wrong thing. It's just more about, what are the potential outcomes? As an investor, we should be thinking about these things. And should we be freaking out at this point, or should we not? Go ahead, Jeff. We can start with you.
Yeah, it's information. When people decide to tell you like what they're doing.
Hey, Jeff, we're hearing a lot of feedback there. Is there a way to make that sound better?
Yeah. Let me tell the wind to die down. 1 second.
Go ahead, do that. Go in your Cybertruck, dude. Get in your Cybertruck.
Go to Xander.
Okay, go ahead, Xander. Okay, Xander, are you there?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, I'm a little under the weather.
Doesn't sound like you, man. Wow.
I know, right? I sound like a different person.
You do.
So, I mean, I think that capitulating like that, it's definitely someone's choice, and it's just decisions when they're made emotionally. Unfortunately, uh, to have it go in this direction right away, it'll make people reconsider, and that is what makes the market. Some kind of good news comes out, a story that people tell themselves, that they need to sleep at night is ultimately what it's about for individuals. And if he felt that he couldn't handle the risk at it, and he wanted to have some, it's his decision. So I don't give him too much heat for it. But it is this is the exact reason, the result of today's market performance, or at least Tesla's performance, is why I think that you have to make decisions on a cool head and think them through. So, but what was the original question that you asked, Herbert?
That is, just wanted to know how you felt about this whole thing. There's various outcomes that can happen, right? And we can walk us through all of this. How likely is the outcome that Warren mentioned yesterday, right? Which is immediately after the vote goes negative on both options, Elon will leave because he doesn't have his 25% control, which he has kind of indicated that is an issue for him. And when he leaves, the company collapses. And I think from Warren's perspective, I don't even think he thinks that FSD is going to be worth anything, and it's just not a company that he wants to be part of, or that it can go really, really badly. How likely is that worst case scenario?
Yeah, and that's the right way to think about it. It's in probabilities, and the flaw that I found in the logic was that it was taking, it was he was trying to justify the emotional part of the decision, which was, oh, I would have sold 50%, but I didn't let my brain. So, and I say that with respect to Warren. I like him a lot. So if he hears this, it's no disrespect, but he I think that, like, when you stack probabilities, and if you're saying it's a 20% chance that the vote goes against you, but there's data points that you can contemplate, and and like the whole marketing aspect of why Tesla's trying to promote the vote, in my mind, they're doing it because of the bring it to Texas, and that's the concern. But the story that the probability that the AI team leaves, that's a different calculation. And then when you stack it one on top of the other, the scenario that he thinks that can happen, it becomes a very low probability in my mind. So I don't pull, any shares. But for him, it was a higher probability, and so he decided what he did. But I don't have that same concern, because I think that they're way too far down the path, um, to not have FSD show up on the balance sheets and change the valuation of the company.
Right. And Elon himself said at the Q2 earnings call or the Q1 earnings call that the full self-driving robotaxi is going to happen regardless. It's the bot, whether or not the bot's going to be, as successful as it possibly can. And he certainly wants to slow down that's, built to become sentient, robot. But it doesn't take it with him. So I don't know if some people are confusing that somehow he can take the technology with him to XAI and build it there. Having said that, what about the option where he says, okay, I don't want to build it in Tesla, but I do want to build it in a company I do control, XAI. So he does build the technology, intelligence part of it there at least. And then he licensed it to Tesla. He has significant shares. He's not going to let Tesla go to zero. Now, the other conspiracy theory that we should discuss is a long time ago, Ford Motor Company, he himself actually, just how history might echo, he himself was left his company, Ford, and then he bought it back when the stock fell significantly. Then their entire family bought it back. And that's how now they had much more full control. Is that an option where Elon will leave, make the stock fall, and then he can come back and buy in and get his 25%? Regardless, this is his baby. He's not going to let it, die. But it's important to talk about all these different options. So are you back there now, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I think there are a number of scenarios, but I think he's pretty highly levered to Tesla's success. I know there's a lot of people that claim to know like Elon's exact bank balances and what he's liquid for and when he has to sell. I'm not one of those people. I don't think I think a lot of those people also just talk out of their ass. They don't actually know what's going on with his finance. He knows what's going on with his finances, but I think it is fair to say that his other companies and their growth, like most of his net worth is tied up in Tesla, and it wouldn't behoove him to damage the value of the company. So I think, yeah, I think it's okay to scenario plan and to kind of game theory out things that could happen. It's another thing to I don't know, kind of like amplify it like to no end with like for hours and hours and hours. So I don't have a problem. Like I told Warren Spaces yesterday. I told others, like, I mean, we don't own his, but we don't have his checkbook. Like, we can do whatever the hell he wants. It's just take it as information. I'm sure you don't have the same bank balances that he does, and nor the same time horizon. So I hope everyone else is making their own decisions based on their own situation, their own risk tolerances, their own time horizon, and that's ultimately what people should be doing. I think discussing the merits of the bull and bear case, I think it's healthy. I think you should wake up every day if you own a stock, and you should understand and walk yourself through the bear thesis. And if you can't, you may be pretty slow, and you may be getting, eaten later that day. So I think, to keep yourself fit, to keep yourself healthy, to keep your investing regimen healthy, I think you should be very well versed on the bear thesis of any stock that you own. That's just my recommendation. And yeah, so anyway, I took it as information. I didn't take it as like personally. Um, people should be buying and selling and do what makes them feel better and makes them wealthier. That's why people are in the stock market. They're not in it for necessarily philanthropic exploits. So maybe Scott is, but most aren't.
Yeah. Well,
What
I
else,
mean,
Herbert?
so let's okay, he's already said that Robotaxi is on its way. It is on its way. We're seeing it now. The announcement's going to be August 8th. So June 13th, let's say just completely everything just through the roof, terrible. He quits. Is August 8th done? Is Robotaxi no longer going to roll out? Is the company no longer going to solve full self-driving? Or much more likelihood is that, and he said it himself, right, that this is something that's going to happen regardless. So even with just Robotaxi and Elon not there, again, I'm playing just complete worst case scenario here in my mind. That is the worst case scenario. The company's still going to be very, very successful, right? I mean, like he's not the company. He's built this company. This company is run by 120,000 employees. They have done an amazing job. Executives, building products and achieving the impossible. That's not going to go away necessarily. Now, if you are going, well, 10, 20 years from now, I don't want to be investing this, that's fine. That's just a worst case scenario. Do you guys agree with that potential, or are you guys thinking that Robotaxi just does not launch at all?
No, I agree. I think it's like really important to, as Jeff was saying, to um, look for red flags and analyze your assumptions. Um, Over the last week, like I went back and looked at my 2019 assumptions from Kathy Wood, and what were the things that inspired me to start researching the company and look at the financials, and then at the same time, right after the Warren Spaces, I was in a Tesla Q space and listening to what their thesis is. And of course, it's a bunch of accusations about fraud and investigations from all the three-letter agencies, and how, the company is doomed, and Elon. And so, but I think it's important to do that and analyze it. Of course, if you go against the investing thesis of, be fearful when everyone's greedy and greedy when everyone's fearful. Unfortunately, if you spend too much time listening to bears and not contemplate the repercussions of it, right? With are these like the biggest thing is that these are shareholders that are making the vote. It is counterintuitive and against your own interest to vote against the compensation package. And so that to me is a logical fallacy. And I just, I tried to share it and bring those points up and help him through it. But, he made up his mind. So I just don't think that you will have Elon taking he, first of all, he can't. But I just don't see it. It's not in his nature to just pack up his things and pout and run away.
Yeah, I don't I don't see like all the blood, sweat, and tears for over 16 years or more, being taken away by some dude with 9 shares and an activist judge, in Delaware. I just don't see him like. I'm trying to put myself in that situation, and I And if I had invested all this time, like I would be trying to power through it. And but you know, everybody's different. But I would certainly, I mean, the guy's been through a lot. But you know, I mean, and like I said, anything could happen. But I can't imagine him capitulating to, you know, kind of a bogus, a frivolous lawsuit, and you know, an activist judge. And again, there's some merits probably in the ruling. I mean, I've read the ruling. Did you read the ruling? Yeah, I've read the ruling. And, you know, I understand it and I understood the risk at the time. But it's honestly, you know, bizarre. If you were to put 100 different, like, the S&P CEOs through, like, the same rigor of, like, okay, how was your comp package derived? What's your proximity to your board? I mean, and even if you were to put Elon through, you know, and Tesla through this, but with maybe 100 different judges, I don't think you're getting the same response 100 different times. In fact, I think it would be pretty rare that what played out actually played out. So I'm interested to talk to some of the, you know, because I mean, my theory is like if you're holding a stock and you have a lot of stock, or if you have any number of stock, but if you're holding the stock, you're generally kind of like, you know, you're pro a company that you're holding the stock on. You're not usually like holding it in spite and hating everyone and voting against it. And if you are, let's say you're underwater, like well, you want to do a vote that could put the future of the company in jeopardy and make you more underwater. I'm just trying to understand like who these people. I think these people that are like talking out against the company. And again, I'm okay with like talking through the bear thesis. I'm not really okay with like Elon's a liar and all this other stuff. These are all like these are emotional conversations. But a lot of these people either don't have a lot of shares or they've completely sold out and they're just like, you know, they just want to like talk. And I think you know the representative shareholder base that holds the stock, you know, is generally like pro the company they're holding the stock on. And I would like to think that the board kind of tested with institutions, you know, like, hey, we're going to put these items to a vote. Are you guys kind of okay with it? But I mean, all these things, like anything could happen. But to think that it's going to go from like a 73% approval rate with shareholders to 49%, that's a pretty big drop. If you think about it, um, that's a fairly big drop in my opinion. But you know, I'm not giving you financial advice. It's just I'm kind of giving you just general advice, or just I'm just talking about it out loud. I guess I hope Leo joins, um, uh, because I mean Leo follows us, Herbert, you and I, and uh, yeah, it'd just be interesting. I mean, the question I would have two questions. What does the Tesla look like on the other side of your vote? Like if your vote goes the way you want it, what does Tesla look like to you? And my second question to him would be, what would between now and June 12th, like what would you need to hear or see to change your vote to be for the board positions? That would be the two things I'd like to understand from him. But I think he's what 0.1% of the shares. It's a big number, but it's not going to, you know, it's not going to move this thing one way or another.
Yeah, so this is where the logic kind of breaks down sometimes, right? So some of the bulls will say, "Oh, it doesn't, you know, matter if Elon leaves, the company's going to be very successful." And then they turn around and say, you know, almost what you just said. I don't understand. If you are an investor in Tesla, why would you vote against it? Don't you realize the company is going to fail? And so that they're saying that, well, the company is doing very well, and I want to vote in spite, for spite against Elon, but the company will still do very well. I do find it a little interesting, just a little, where a few years ago we've all known, and I've asked this question so many times in so many spaces: what is the biggest catalyst for Tesla? What is the biggest potential issue for Tesla? And it's always the key man risk. We've always known that anything could have happened to Elon at any moment in time for the last 12 years, 10 years, 20 years. But he has taken his company to where it is today. And now the key man risk can happen at any moment. This could be one thing, it could be anything that can happen. Why would you then be still invested if this one person, which obviously he's incredibly important for Tesla, but then if that's your thesis, you should not have been invested at all. For somebody like Warren, who's always kept saying, I'm a person who doesn't worry about quarterly or even yearly, it's always 10 years out for me. He's been saying that for, very consistently. And yet, key man risk. So you felt that in 10, 20 years, Elon will be there forever. That's you just now feel that the risk is higher now because of, these events. That's fair. And again, not an issue cutting back a certain amount of, investments yet.
Yeah, I always used to get frustrated when I heard like bulls telling.
You cut out there. You cut out. My point is that right now we are, if you look at the business and the product, and you say the key manager has always been there, we have in any point in time in the entire history of this company, we are at the best position ever. We now know high degree of confidence here.
Fire all the
Oh, we
time.
just you're
I think it's interesting for the bulls to just like understand, like, okay, how do we get to this place where you've got Uber bulls capitulating, you've got people worried that there's a chance that this vote, doesn't go, in the way of the board and Tesla and Elon. Like, how do we get to this point? I don't think any of us would have thought we'd be at this point 3 or 4 years ago. And I think that's kind of like a self-check, on the bull thesis side of like, well, how do we get here? And how do we, make sure like in the future, like we're not in this position with margin? Because I think a lot of it is honestly like a lot of it's BS, because when I analyze the company and I look at the rate of innovation, like the amount of new products that are going to come out on the hardware and software side over the next year is probably greater than at any point in time in the company's history. When you think about full self-driving, when you think about the new vehicle launches, when you think about energy, and you think about the Robotaxi and this brand new like product category and this brand new manufacturing method coming out, like this is like I've never seen this pace of innovation in the company's history. So why at this point in time would there be kind of a concern that there's a lull in investor, appetite or support of the company? Now you can look at the stock price over the last 3 years and maybe get some level of, understanding of like why that would be the case. But if you actually like why are you invested in a company? You're not necessarily invested for what happened the last 3 years. You're looking at the next couple of years and like, where's this thing going to go? And if you're looking at the next year and like where this thing is going to go, I always say this on YouTube or on our podcast and on spaces, like think about Tesla on May 21st 2025. Are the supply base going to be ramping, Robotaxi components? Are we going to be at a 200K a year run rate on Cybertrucks, making, 20, 30 points of gross margin? Is the whole business on the auto side going to be north of 20? Are we going to be on FSD 13.xx with, one intervention, per year? We're going to be at some level of performance that we just never thought was possible. And I think you always got to think about that and think like, where are we going to be at? Are we going to have these new lower cost vehicles that are between where we're at today and the new platform? And like, that's a kind of a pretty normal like way to think about, like what's the next year going to look like? And if you're thinking about the next year, like, I mean, this is a fairly dense year of Tesla rolling out a lot of new stuff. So I don't know how else any way to call it.
Yeah, he's always said that he's invested for a lot of it is tied into supporting Elon and and like me personally, I'm invested in the technology. I think about like the iPhone moment, but for cars, and so while I absolutely love Elon and want him to stay and support, but if one is investing, I think that they need to analyze that part as like what is the fundamental reason why you're invested. And so I think him analyzing it. And look, he might change his mind and buy right back in, and that's fine. The good part is that he does s- cause a chain reaction, and uses his platform for everyone to think about their thesis, and I think that's healthy.
Yeah, I want to, I don't think this conversation should be about Warren. Anybody can make any decision they want to. That is absolutely appropriate. And him just selling 20% is not a big deal. The question right now, and let's have you join, Omar, is the question we're asking at this point, the conversation is, it's the key man risk has always been there. But the key man risk at this moment in time, what's going to happen to the company moving forward? What's your perspective of the key man risk that Tesla has?
I mean, you know, I just find it a little funny how much time people are talking about Warren Redlick and talking about, oh, Elon's going to leave the company. They're literally posting pictures of their Robotaxi sneakily inside their videos.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, well, what if this happens? They're just debating it. There's nothing we can actually learn from debating it because we don't know what the vote's going to be. It seems like it's probably going to pass and that either way, Elon's probably not going to leave the company. But people just like to talk about it. I mean, my philosophy on this is there's a lot of horrible things that could happen every day. Every day. Every day I could die. I could get into a car crash. Maybe an axe murderer comes into my house. Maybe a hurricane hits the coast of California somehow, or a meteor hits the Fremont factory, or Elon dies, or he gets abducted by aliens, or he leaves. But if you spend all day worrying about these low probability events, you'll never get out of bed in the morning, right? So you have to say, okay, there's tons of risks. Maybe the SEC will go after Elon and pursue a directors and officers ban, saying he can't be a director or officer of a public company. But I see that as probably low probability. I see this as probably low probability. So, I'm just going to hold my shares and see what happens. As an equity investor, you're essentially compensated for risk, right? One way to view the market is it's a tool of allocating risk to where it can be handled. So you take the risk that the stock might shit its pants, and then you get the reward if it doesn't. So, I'm comfortable with the key man risk. I think, you see with the acquisition of X that the company really, has a lot of leaders. Obviously, they've done some layoffs recently, but, you saw that, Tesla Investor Day, that huge lineup of leaders. The company, I think, is doing pretty good in terms of key man risk. It's running itself very well. And I think Elon is doing a great job setting a vision for the company. The sort of Netflix analogy between Quickster and Netflix, where it seemed like this crazy decision to split off the DVD business and focus on streaming. But in hindsight, it's like, duh, of course, streaming is the future. Of course nobody wanted to get a DVD mailed to them, right? This was actually the business back then. And it's going to be the same way with autonomy. Although it may, some of these moves may seem scary, like, oh my God, a vehicle without controls. Well, what if it doesn't work? In hindsight, it's just going to be like, duh, of course that was the right move.
Yeah, I like the way that you put that, Omar. So let's talk about what exactly Tesla has that is, product wise, that's not going to stop no matter what, right? So we talked about Robotaxi. It's well on its way. They're actually showing you the design on August 8th, means that they're well ahead there. They're showing you that, they're announcing programs. You have countries stepping up. You have general managers of autonomy of Baidu saying that they'd love to partner with Tesla. These things are all moving forward. These things are happening. They've already bought significant amounts of H100s. They've announced that Dojo is already in production. They've got new data centers that they're creating. They are second in largest in compute next to Meta, according to Elon himself. these things don't just disappear when we're here. The movement towards the next generation vehicles, those things will happen. The factories, those things will happen. Energy, that will continue to happen. The things that we're talking about, I guess, would be a Tesla bot, but Tesla bot is already in Gen 2, and they're already talking about potentially a Gen 3 by the end of this year, or at least a new modified version with the hands and others, and they're talking about selling it next year. So does that just stop if a key man risk occurred? Does that just immediately stop? Does that mean, I think that they could still sell that. It's just a matter of, well, it's not going to become AGI now. Well, okay, we'll still be a $1 trillion company, but we could have been a $50 trillion company. Oh, darn it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's what I'm thinking. But yeah, what do you think, Jeff?
Well, I do have something on key man risk. It may not be the most popular thing to say, but whatever. I mean, key man risk on a net level is probably escalated. You look at over the last 8 months to, two of the, I guess, 4 named officers of the company are not there. So what I don't know, just being a realist, and I've seen, I've used this process, I've been in this process before, is I don't know none of us know what Tesla's ready now successor list looks like, what the 1 to 2 year successor list looks like. We don't know it. We just know that we saw those 15 to 20 people on stage and they're pretty solid. But, we've lost a handful of them and we don't know what's behind it. But if those people have been at the company for, 10 to 15 years and been hiring people kind of to fit into the mold of Tesla and work, in the Tesla way, the Elon way, they should be okay. But I mean, I think it's okay to question, like what is the succession plan now for Tesla, and just at least understand it, not to say that it needs to be employed in any way, and also to just say like, hey, look, the top level staff, there's nothing wrong with changeover, by the way. It happens. Everybody thought in 2019 when JB Straubel left that it was the end of the world, and he was the co-founder of the company, and nothing against him, but the company is 10x'd, at least in value, since then. So all I'm saying is I think over the last 8 months, there's definitely been changeover at the top levels. Maybe some of that is warranted. Maybe some of it wasn't. Maybe some of it was what you would say is regrettable. Maybe some of it wasn't. But I think it's okay to ask the question and have the debate about it and make sure you feel okay about it from your own kind of investment thesis.
No one can replace Elon. No one can replace Elon. I mean, yes, somebody can replace JB Straubel. Yes, there's some incredible staff, executives that can take over, but no one's going to replace Elon. Elon, look what he's done. And look what we're going to see happening right now in the last 6 months. He stepped in. We just took a look at just in the last 2 weeks. I've been looking at Lord Pretty Flacco has been doing a great job tracking every single thing that's been happening almost every day, if not every second day. Elon is actually talking about FSD, talking about Tesla, and he's making massive changes to the company. We're all witnessing it, and we'll see in the future that this was incredible, foresight. He's making the right decisions. We'll see, right? But this is the kind of things that few people on Earth can do, and he's doing it. So, definitely, if even on something happens with key man risk, this company will not, achieve what it could have achieved. He's a multiplier. But like you're saying, when Tim Cook took over Steve Jobs, everybody was freaking out. But Tim Cook, right, 20x the company since Steve Jobs passed away, because Steve made a culture. He built it from scratch. This thing just outlived himself, and that's what his greatest product ever, on the outside and inside, was the company. Omar, do you want to speak to that? I know you and I share that incredible, affection and just how much attention we pay attention to Apple forever. Do you see a similarity between Tesla and Apple? Of course, I see Tesla being 10 times, 20 times incredibly better than Apple, but they share a lot.
Yeah, there are some similarities for sure.
So what do you guys how are you guys all feeling about what's going to happen in the next 3 months? So like you said, Omar, the vote's going to happen. There's a variety of options of what can happen here, right? It could be, both votes are completely shot down. Okay, then there's Elon leaving. That's option one. Scenario two is Elon doesn't leave, despite that. And then there's plan B's and C's that are put in place. Uh, Scenario three is just one of them is approved, and the other one isn't approved. And then the other scenario is both of those things are approved. This is June 13th. And then maybe, like even if they were approved, even if they weren't approved, actually a lot of people are pointing out that it doesn't matter. Like this is something that's going to take about a year, regardless, either scenario, for it to play out anyways.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I think probably what's going to happen is Elon's compensation plan will pass. I think the redomestication to Texas will fail. And the board nominations could go either way, but I think they'll probably go for.
What's your thoughts, Jeff?
Sorry, similar answer.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. The question is what happens after, right? So then they take that back to the judge and try to get his plan reinstated, right? They still need judge's approval.
Yeah, let's bring Don up.
Hey everybody, this question is for Omar. Hey Omar, hope you're well. You brought up that comparison between Netflix and Tesla with that Quickster comparison, that transition from the DVD classic blockbuster model to renting, the way that Netflix does now. But just playing devil's advocate, I saw a couple of posts and kind of got my brain thinking that Netflix, and this is not me challenging, this is just me trying to understand your mindset, right? Netflix never actually manufactured DVDs. Their business wasn't really based on them owning any DVDs, right? So it was just like leasing them out kind of thing, renting them out. So I think that's one kind of like difference between Netflix and Tesla, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that aspect.
Well, the key thing here is not manufacturing. It's just a story about skating where the puck is going rather than just running your business, right? If you're an unimaginative person, you're running a DVD by mail business, you
Absolutely.
keep mailing
Thanks for that.
DVDs. It takes somebody, with a little bit of guts to risk the business. All this Quickster now, the business you know and love, and Netflix is going to be about streaming, and to say that's where the puck is going, and people didn't see it at the time. They thought he was nuts. You look at the performance in the years after that, and it turns out he was right.
And it's about timing too, right? Because that moment, people who are like 85% of people, 90% of people were still very much in the process of ordering the DVDs by mail. I did that. Absolutely, went through this process versus streaming it, and people are going, "This is too early." You're making the bet, and it's not quite there yet. But they made the right bet. They made the right decision. And in fact, this slowed them down. The fact that they got embarrassed, had to keep the DVD business together for a while. This is why Elon is making this decision now. This is the moment. And for them to make this, he did say this is not bet the company kind of scenario, but the confidence for him to have made this decision means we're much more likely that we're going to succeed here now than waiting a few more years. Like he could have waited another year or two, but he's saying this is it. We're here. We're seeing it happening. They can see 4 months ahead. They're probably now playing with version 12.6, 12.8, maybe 13, right? They might even be playing with the August 8th version by this point. And again, it doesn't have to be on August 8th that's the, it's Robotaxi solved. It can be a year from now, and it's still all just right in line with the move.
A great business, a great tech business.
May I ask another question for everyone else? Is
Just a
that okay?
second, Don. I think Omar's replying first. Hold on.
Yeah, I think a great tech business is one that really rides the wave of technology trends. There's always changes going on in the market, and it's important to identify them and ride those waves, or else it'll hit you in the face and you'll end up under the wave. So in Netflix's case, the wave was broadband penetration. The reason we needed DVDs to be mailed to people is because people didn't have great internet connections. But he saw that as internet connections get built out and get faster and faster, we'll have more and more customers that can actually be served by streaming. Similarly, there's something happening in AI here where AI is going to fundamentally transform what the car is. It's not even really going to be a car anymore, it's going to be a robot. So Tesla really is riding this wave of AI training compute that NVIDIA has been leading. You know, we're getting more and more training compute, we're getting these more and more powerful systems. They don't have to do anything. You know, the training compute just gets more powerful year after year. And the increased data, the increased know-how we have of these state-of-the-art models, language models, vision models, this is all a wave that they're riding. And as they're adding more and more compute, the product just sort of gets better and better on its own. And as our understanding of AI and machine learning continues to advance, the software just is going to win more and more customers over. So I think it's really
Yeah.
important to do this, or else if somebody else is able to bring this technology to market, it kills the auto business entirely.
Yeah, and the good news is that Elon is is a technologist. He calls himself that as well. And you know, we're very fortunate that we have this person who understands technology, yet is a creator, yet is a builder, yet is a manager. He does everything so well. Don, do you have another question?
Yeah, I don't know if I got cut out for a second. You guys may have already discussed it, but what do you think, if at all, the implications or ramifications of the vote in June is going to are going to be for August 8th?
Yeah, I think I asked that question earlier, but well, let's go ahead and revisit that. If the June vote is negative on both of these important proposals, what does that mean for August 8th? My understanding and what I understand from Alexandra Mertz is that regardless of which scenario happens, both were positive, both are negative. One is positive and one's negative. It doesn't matter that it's just that overhang that's going to last for a long time. It doesn't mean that if votes are positive that all of a sudden everything's resolved, and it doesn't mean that if both are negative that oh my gosh, you know, Elon's leaving and the talk will crash. And does that mean in any way that it's going to affect the rollout of Robotaxi? I can't see it. I can't see it affecting Robotaxi rollout. Even Elon himself said that that's already going to happen. What does the panel think? Jeff?
I think you described it well earlier. I mean, we're about 78, 79 days away from that event. There are software releases on the network infrastructure side. There's software releases for the vehicle. There's software releases for the app in the ride-hailing piece. There's probably coordination if they are going to show a hardware prototype, and all those things are in flight. And those things will continue. They all probably have, you know, in my experience, they would have a daily schedule against them and kind of countdowns, and they'll be working, you know, up until the day, you know, of that event and making sure everything works and goes off with a hitch. But yeah, like you said, in terms of the vote, you know, there's going to be an overhang for a bit, as you know, they still have to work on, you know, getting the judge approval. They still have to work on the new compensation plan. Like, you know, this overhang's going to be there for a bit. But obviously, if both the votes are favorable, I mean, there's certainly some momentum building for sure. I would take it that way.
Anybody else want to answer that question? If not, we'll go to Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey guys, thanks for doing this. And
Oh no, we lost you, Scott. Can we still hear you? So Omar or Xander, do you guys want to answer that question about what would happen if to August 8th? If
Nothing.
Yeah,
The
that's
company's not going to disappear all of a sudden. People have really lost their mind. You know what people should be worrying about? 50 people die every year falling into their toilet because someone left the toilet seat up and they go and sit in it and they fall and they die. Okay. That is probably, it should be a bigger worry for you than The vote fails. Elon throws a temper tantrum, throws his mic down on the stage at the annual meeting, starts crying. He says, I'm leaving. The whole entire AI team goes with him. He somehow takes Optimus and, Robotaxi. Like, this is the situation people are spinning. And it's really a little bit ridiculous. If you're focused on this, you're really focusing on the noise instead of the signal. This is like if Apple, is coming out with the iPhone and you're focused on, the options backdating scandal or something like that. It's sort of a minor administrative issue that really isn't going to have as much of an impact, probably, as people are imagining. What is going to be material at that meeting is going to be what comes after the vote, okay? The vote is going to be the most boring part of the entire meeting compared to what they tell you about what they're planning to do with the company at the normal part of the meeting, the content part.
Nicely said. Xander, were you going to say something?
No, let's go back to Scott.
Okay, yeah. Scott?
Hey guys, one more try. Sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute. I just wanted to say how excited I am about the Robotaxi event, and now that I finally have FSD here in Canada, it's been amazing. And yeah, Omar, you were right about that. I had a question about the whole reincorporation thing. If they move to Texas, does that give them the opportunity to rewrite or adjust some of the Constitution where they can issue founder shares? And does that somehow solve the entire issue? Like, is this comp plan vote really irrelevant, and kind of the move to Texas really is the most important thing?
Yeah.
I don't think so. That kind of issuing of a new class of shares it would need to be another proposal. You can't just kind of roll it up into the ratification to Texas. Furthermore, the ratification to Texas looks unlikely to pass just based on the requirements. They actually need to get 51% of the, outstanding shares to vote yes. So it's a pretty high bar. I'm not really expecting it to pass, honestly.
Yeah, the move to Texas would have been one of the best options because of those things that you just said. But it is very, very difficult. What is it? The Mount Everest is what Robin Denholm, the chairwoman of Tesla, said, because you need all votes. It's not just the cast votes. If you don't cast your vote, it is considered to be a no to that question. So it's much harder. But there is multiple plans. This is plan A. This is plan B. And there's C's and D's. Even Elon somehow threw out the idea of, if we have a lot of cash, we can always buy back shares. Now, if you listen to that, why did he say that? All right. It's like, okay, well, then that means that in order to get a lot of cash, that's years down the line. That's not like this month, next month. That's next year, the 2 years away. And then they can buy back shares if they wanted to. I don't know if he was just throwing a bone. I mean, whatever. We don't know what's going on, but there's lots of plans, potential here. Yeah, Scott, did you want to continue and ask another question or? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So right, we are all watching FSD. We're all seeing it progress. We're watching it being updated every week. We're watching Robotaxi. This is like the car driving itself. It is kind of funny because many of us have been, testing this for 3 years now, and it's right here. It's very, very close. And then isn't it just ironic that this is a time that we're all, many of the bulls are getting scared. I think I like the way that you said that. Sora, did you want to just jump in? I mean, we've talked about not just about how some bulls making this decision, which is perfectly fine, and then there is this key man risk. How big of an issue is that? And then the technology that we're going to see coming out of Tesla in the next several months.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'll just, briefly touch on Warren selling 20%. He should be able to do what he wants. His shares, his money. And if he views this vote as a big enough risk that he wants to play it safe and trim a little bit just in case, that's fine, honestly. In my opinion, this comp vote, though, will be passed again. As for institutional investors, they hate uncertainty and volatility. And yet, sure, some of them dislike Elon, and they might be influenced by outsiders, etc. But at the end of the day, I think they know, like many of us do, that giving Elon his stock options back is the right thing to do. These managers, at the end of the day, they care about making money, and that's how they gain their power. So why take the risk of voting no if there's even a 5% chance that Elon were to leave in if a potential no vote passes? Their own stake would be at risk there, and they likely know that. And briefly touching on the Tesla community in general, a few weeks ago I laid out in a long post why I thought this vote was important, the risk involved with it, and why people need to vote. I know Omar and Alexandra and others have been beating sort of the same drum. And as a result, we're likely to see record retail shareholder turnout for this vote on June 13th. Just this week, because of the efforts of the Tesla community, over 140,000 Tesla shareholders in Sweden can now vote their shares, whereas they couldn't before. Those two banks made an exception, and that's because of the efforts of the community. And I think Tesla has somewhere around like 6 million shareholders worldwide. I think about 50% of those are institutional, out of the flow, that is. About 35% are retail, and I think the rest is just owned by, employees, executives, and Elon. And I think it's important to convey the importance of this vote, but I think we should all calm down a bit, honestly, and not get caught up in our emotions. Let's think rationally. And, we'll see what happens with this vote. I think we've all said what we need to say. We all understand the importance at this point, and we got 3 weeks to go. So almost to the day. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and August 8th is even is even so close too. Like less than 70 days from now, we're gonna get there. Hey,
Yep, I
Adrian.
don't think it's
Yeah.
like a coincidence that Tesla put out that shareholder video yesterday, and there's all these tidbits. I've never before seen tidbits and images and little videos of the Tesla ride-hailing app. Of course, we got our first actual sneak peek, very small sliver, but the sneak peek of what I think is the Robotaxi. Like Tesla is giving us these hints that, look, guys, we can make this future happen, but you need to vote and support us next month in this June 13th vote.
Adrian, do you want to jump in?
Oh yeah, definitely. I kind of want to piggyback on the Warren situation. Like, I mean, I understand. I mean, of course, everybody has the right to sell whatever they want to sell, when they want to sell, and how much they want to sell. It's kind of the way it is. This capitalism, and it's a good thing. I think the only criticism that really exists, where I can kind of understand where people are coming from, is that it was done in such a high impact manner. This is done live on a space, for instance, right? There were thousands of people listening to it live, which is really difficult to pull off. I mean, most of us understand how difficult it is to, get the listener count on spaces above, say, at least 500 or even 600, but then to have thousands of people there live listening to this whole thing go down, I think that's quite a spectacle. And I think personally that is one of the reasons why, there's a bit of controversy around this. And of course, the drama unfolding in the comments. But other than that, I think we really should just calm down, man. I know it's a bit of a tumultuous time, but at the same time, we're kind of making it worse for ourselves if we keep acting irrationally. I mean, some people have already sold their stocks before the last big pump, thinking that this is going to be going down further, and this is not even the lowest point. So, I mean, maybe just have patience because it's a long-term stock. I don't know why everyone's thinking so medium term. But of course, act on the present, and in this case, of course, vote for the compensation package, right? It's the best we can do.
Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, Omar.
So I gotta go to a different space with Robert Scoble, but I just wanted to say, before I left, everybody's just talking about this compensation plan, Warren Redlick, like the amount, like I didn't even go to the space. The amount of times people have been just talking about Warren. Oh, Warren did this. Warren, like, who cares? Oh, he did a space, and I didn't like that. It doesn't matter. We have lost the plot, right? Remember what this used to be about? Clean air. We're polluting the air. We're burning a bunch of gas and putting it into the air. Every company in the world is backing down. And, we've got one company that's a profitable EV maker, one company that is working on the autonomous technology, I think can bring this technology to the masses for the first time. And when a lot of us got into Tesla, we were just like, I love this. I love what they're doing. This is one of the biggest market opportunities in, really in human history, moving the entire global economy to this new energy source. And we're just so caught up with silly stuff that doesn't matter. We're going to talk for the next 3 weeks about this compensation package, and then it's probably going to pass. And okay, well, who cares? So, I mean, I hope we can just kind of look at what's actually going on. I mean, there's so many people just attacking EVs, attacking Tesla. Like the Cybertruck just started outselling the Rivian R1T. I think that's kind of an interesting milestone. But everybody is really focused on, okay, is Elon going to leave the company and take the AI team with him? It just feels a little bit detached from reality. So I hope we can, in the future, just spend more time looking at some things that are actually going to be material, I think, to the future of the company, and realize that a lot of these things, like what Warren is doing or this vote, are probably in the long term not even going to be things we really remember.
Thank you so much, Omar. I appreciate you joining us. You made some incredible points earlier. And thank you for this reminder. I mean, I know that many of us in the panel, we've been long-term investors since 2012. And this is where I just, shake my head. Like I've been saying this all space. It's like since 2012, you watch this company now dominate electric vehicle, dominate energy. It's actually, what they said is happening, actually about to dominate in Robotaxi, created a bot, about to have that launch. Everything is moving well and moving in the positive direction. And then here we are, there's a lot of bulls. I guess there's a lot of people who came in, because of FOMO. They started seeing the stocks jump, and so now they're stock investors. And then you've got that. So I'm not saying that I'm this, green energy guy, and that's all I care about. But it's about watching this company do innovation. It's an innovation engine, creating innovation and actually doing what they're saying they're going to do, and creating things. So people are still doubting the bot. How do you? I have a different perspective on that. I'm watching the bot being developed. I'm seeing it Gen 2. I'm seeing it walk. I'm seeing it. There's no doubt in my mind that they're able to do what all the other companies are able to show, that it can actually train these bots, and yet Tesla can manufacture them at scale. So why are people now very afraid of the future of this company when this is where we're at this point? Yeah, Adrian, sorry, did you want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, kind of on the long-term vision, but also the Tesla bot. I mean, there's another interesting aspect that people don't understand with automating certain processes. This thing will take the jobs of people who actually don't want to do these certain types of jobs. This is kind of like automation on a level we've never seen before. And so if that doesn't give you a case for saying, hey, go Tesla, then I really don't understand. And I mean, again, this is a long-term play. So there will be ups and downs, but I think if you actually looked at it from a bigger picture perspective, you actually zoomed out every now and then and you didn't try to trade a long-term stock, then maybe you actually see that there is a net gain as opposed to just instabilities. And I think there's also a bigger problem here that over time, all the FUD has just basically infiltrated all of our minds via mere exposure. And I think that has caused a considerable amount of damage because, to be honest, one thing that's really that especially Tesla Q and the remainder who are here still left on this platform are really good at is making up stuff that sounds kind of like it makes sense, but at the same time also doesn't make any sense at all. And many will actually believe it, and it starts entering your subconscious mind. So there's a lot of doubt as a result of false information being passed along by questionable characters. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more of this come to the surface as a company becomes more successful. So, yeah.
The funniest one is that Adrian is Elon.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, like you go to those, I listen to the Tesla Q space, and they were saying that it's going to cost the company $50 billion, and so there's all of this misinformation that's out there, and that's why they call it fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And if you're going to consume that material, you're susceptible to make a mistake with your decision. I play out the opposite scenario, and I go, we've been through the 400 to 100 drop, and we've already seen it go back to 250 and to 200. So like you stayed true through all of that just to play out the scenario right before the Robotaxi event. If there's anything that we've been waiting for, it is for autonomy to be upon us.
Okay, let's go to you,
Such a
Felix.
skilled hunter.
Felix?
Sorry, I was having a hard time unmuting. So I think like one way to logic out of this is to try to break it down into distinct concerns. Like I think there's at least 3 concerns to think about. One is Elon going to leave Tesla? That's one. 2, what is the kind of immediate impact of this vote to the Tesla outlook? And what's the long term? So for the first concern, I actually think that there's almost no chance of that happening just because of, if you look at like what motivates Elon, I think he's already in record saying like he's not looking for economics on this compensation package, it's just control. And the motivation for that is control of AGI, right? And so if this kind of goes downhill and he doesn't get his 25%, sure, he might move that research R&D into XAI, but I highly doubt that he's going to leave the company because he's always talked about scale is the hard problem. And I just don't think that from the way he thinks, there's any way that XAI or any other company can match the scale that Tesla brings into market. So because of his pragmatism and kind of first principles approach, I just don't think that he would jump ship just because of this. And there are other avenues for him to get that 25%. And then the second point of like, what's the kind of immediate term impact of this? I think, Herbert, you said it loud and clear, like all of those things are already, the ball's rolling on it. And it's just a matter of getting it QA'd and released out to the public. And so I just don't see like any of what happens in this vote impacting that timeline. Where I do see things getting impacted is the long-term outlook of Tesla. So is it going to be a $10 trillion company? Is it going to be a $50 trillion company? That all depends on like where Elon kind of gains his focus. If he doesn't get this compensation package, he's probably going to focus more on XAI rather than Tesla. And long-term, that's going to have some incremental impacts to how Tesla approaches problems and probably would lead them down a path that is successful, but not as successful as if Elon was there the whole time. So yeah, I guess those are 3 factors I'm thinking about. Is Elon going to leave? Probably not. Is it going to impact anything immediately for Tesla? Probably not. Will it impact the long-term outlook of Tesla? Maybe.
I like that, Felix. I'm in line with you. What about the other panel members? What do you guys think of what he said?
Yeah, I think it sounds about accurate.
Okay, thanks, Felix. Appreciate that. Lord, welcome. Oh, Machine as well. Don't know who came first. Who's let me jump in first. Machine.
Ladies first. I don't like machines, so.
Oh, what
We
did I
need
do?
meta in here to balance it out.
What did I do? Machine, I think I asked you to come up first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a few comments. One is, I think, long term, whether Elon Musk gets his compensation package or not, the Robotaxi future for Tesla is pretty close to guaranteed to happen. It's probably going to lose maybe the accelerated timeline a bit if he kind of bows out in some role. So, but the data advantage that Tesla has is very essential, as I've spoken before, and I think that's more and more being realized. that there's no other competitor who has that, and it would take many years for someone else, let alone a startup, to try to catch up to that. So I think that part's pretty well established. Now, Optimus and all that, that's a little more loose. There's not really a data advantage. There's a hardware advantage for Tesla, but you could go to a startup and make that company pull in a few AI engineers and more quickly catch up. But I think, Robotaxi is enough to hold Tesla stock for a long term if you're not worried about the short term volatility. I would just say, though, in terms of FUD, there is a lot of FUD. There's been a lot of FUD historically, but now you have to deal with FUD from the CEO himself. The person who's tweeting back comments about, if I don't get 25%, get the voting compensation plan, that maybe some of this has to be taken elsewhere. That's coming from the CEO himself. So now this is different from before, where FUD comes from external sources. So I just, that's what's making probably some of these people skittish.
That's a very, very good point. Lord?
Yeah, I think it's all good and well. I mean, it's really important to, if you're thinking about a sustained rally over time, it's really important to swap the investor base, shake out the tree a little bit. I think that gives a lot of sustainability to a future rally. It's really important to replace folks with higher levels of conviction. And I think one thing that people forget, in my opinion, is that they forget what percentage of Elon's total stock is tied to the compensation plan. If I remember correctly, I think it's around a third, a fourth or a third. Maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. So that means that he has 2/3 of his net worth, more or less, obviously excluding SpaceX and all the other cool things he works on. But more or less, call it 50% of his net worth is in Tesla. He's not going to leave the company. He's not going to tank the stock. I think the thing about some folks in the community is that they get really, really desperate for news every single day. It's like if Elon doesn't tweet today about Tesla, it means he's not focused on Tesla, right? Or if he's not reacting to a piece of PR that broke right away, then that means that we need a PR department. Elon's not doing his job, and blah blah blah. The thing is, I think everyone needs to chill. I think the comp vote's going to pass. It's going to be back to business as usual. June is the best month of the year seasonally for Tesla stock. We have a lot of really good tailwinds behind us. I'm feeling great. And I'm glad that people are selling and getting panicky because unfortunately that's required, right? It's a form of capitulation. But I'm very bullish. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's the irony of ironies, isn't it? That if Elon wasn't focused on Tesla, then a lot of things people are saying might be true. But look what's going on. It's a complete opposite. He's been tweeting. I just did a whole show on your analysis, Lord. That's gonna, I think, drop tomorrow. I might have already. No, actually, it just dropped today. And no, it'll drop tomorrow. And you've pointed out just in the last 2 weeks all the times that Elon has said or did something that's associated with FSD. He's a wartime CEO. He's involved. He's focused. He wants things to happen. And yep, what's the narrative? What's the FUD? Oh, Elon is going to leave. He doesn't care about the company. He's focused on other companies. It's complete opposite.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think the funniest example was when the Reuters article dropped and then Elon's like, they were lying. And then a day or two later, people are like, well, he didn't specify exactly which part Reuters was lying about. It's hilarious.
And they got some parts right, but they got it wrong. And then, of course, we were all shocked to find out that actually they are doing a more affordable model, not just one, two. And then they are, the Robotaxi's on board. So
and they're ahead of schedule.
and so many other things. And yet, here we are all scared. Many bulls are scared. Nick, did you want to join in?
Yes, thanks for having me. I wanted to ask this a little earlier, so sorry to kind of bring it back up. But first point, and I know everybody likes to talk about Netflix shipping DVDs to streaming, but I think this is more of a comparison from Netflix going from a company from like licensing content to actually producing their own content. So you know, when people talk about they're not an automotive company, there's all these other things. I think that's actually a better comparison to make. But of the bear cases to be made, which you know there are some legit bear cases to be made. You know, going back to I know people were giving Warren a hard time. I just that bear case, and this is what I wanted to ask, you know, anybody's feedback on. He has this idea that if somehow, if this vote of no confidence goes through, that all the top engineers are going to leave with Elon. It's not that Elon's leaving; it's all the top engineers are going to leave with Elon. And from all the rumors and everything we've seen about Tesla, it is, you know, the 80-hour work weeks. There can be burnout. It's obviously a very difficult place to work. Do people really think that if somehow Elon does leave, I'm not trying to debate that. I'm saying, do people think that all the top engineers are really going to leave with him? Thanks.
Who wants to answer that? Sawyer, Jeff, go ahead.
No, Machine had his hand up.
I mean, all I'll say is, sorry, let me end that. All I'll say is a couple things. One is, no, they won't all leave with him. It's just not how it works. Some may follow if he were to leave, but they'll go other places if they're not. People want to be inspired. Engineers want to be inspired. They want to work on something that's meaningful. They want to work on something that's, that could be, profitable. And, I think all those things matter. But yeah, to answer that question, I think it's the case. I just want to go back. I mean, to me, like, I think the short-term risk to Tesla is extremely, which is my opinion. I just think it's low. And sorry, I stepped away for the last, bit of time. I think the thing that Elon can't take, there's a number of things. I think by the way, there's a lot of like shit and like FUD out there that's just total bullshit. Like, oh, Drew sold, like he what did he see? Like, well, you're an executive, you have stock options, you leave the company, your vested options evaporate if you don't sell them in a certain period of time. He sold them in the 140s, the stock is in the 180s. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything like there's any there. I think you can question anything. He may be going into something, that's in a similar line of work where, and this is pure speculation, where you don't want to be holding a ton of shares in a similar line of work from another company. But there's so much FUD out there. Like Elon can leave and like put Optimus under his arm and like walk out with Optimus. Like that doesn't work that way. And I think the thing that people are missing, the thing you hear me constantly harp on the podcast and on Spaces, is about scale. He can't take the scale of Tesla with him. Tesla, the gigafactories, the way that the vehicles are made, the velocity at which they're made, the ever increasing capacity of those factories, he cannot take with him. And when I say capacity, I'm not necessarily meaning the number of units that they produce, but the number of units that they actually produce profitably. They may have the only EV factory in the world that is producing vehicles profitably at scale, and we're not sure, but we don't that could be the case. Either way, it's a very rare thing. He needs the scale of Tesla. Even if he were to leave Tesla, he would still need the scale of Tesla if he wants to do real world AI and apply it on products at scale that can actually make money, whether it's robots, whether it's cars, whether you name it. Everything, all roads lead back to Tesla. A big portion of his net worth is tied up in Tesla. His loans, like he's levered against, so I just think that he needs Tesla more than we may realize. And he's also, I think he loves the company, and he's not going to let an activist judge and an investor, with 9 shares, basically, behind some like class action lawsuit, like knock him off what he's trying to do. So anyway, I just want to go back to this whole concept of this. He needs the scale of Tesla, the monetary scale, the unit scale to apply AI,
and the profitability. He needs all of those things, and Tesla needs him. So to me that thesis works, and if someone can pick away at that thesis, go ahead. I'm open to it.
Yeah, I wanted to. Somebody DM me this idea, and I really thought it was good. Which is worst case scenario, completely worst case scenario. He leaves Tesla. He goes to XAI and says, "Okay, I want to control. I want to make sure that AGI does not become evil." Well, could he not create the AI there and then license it back to Tesla so they can use it in the bots? That seems like a potential option. Machine, what's your thoughts on that? And then ask your comment too.
Well, at first, I generally agree with what Jeff said about how the company would be if Elon had stepped down. There are some people who, in Spaces host, who claim that the company would go bankrupt if Elon left, and I think that's preposterous. But in this case, I just think you talk about this is conditional probabilities, right? We're conditionally saying if the vote fails and if Elon is bluffing or not bluffing about leaving, then what happens? This is all probably very low probabilities that we're talking about here, but it's worth talking about. And in the case of the engineers, I mean, there's really probably a few different groups here. You have one group who might be kind of hardliners dedicated to Musk, who work a whole bunch of hours, who may just leave to follow him no matter where he went. That's probably, 10, 20%. Then you have others who are like, yes, I don't have to work as much. And they'll stay. They're like, I have to work 80 hours a week. But then you have these people in the middle, which I believe are like two of the people who actually just recently left the company, which are ones that would go to another company of Musk simply for the economics. And the economics being startup equity in a new company, which is going to get absurdly high valuation and simply monetarily is going to make them much more rich than they would be if they had stayed at Tesla. That's why you saw these two people go to Kyle Voigt, his startup, because they're going to make more money. It's just simply because they're an early employee and they're going to have these lofty valuations. And you'll have that. This is Kyle Voigt. Kyle Voigt is nothing compared to Elon Musk. So you will have some people leave because of that. And ultimately, I don't think that's as big of an issue. You will rehire other people. There's plenty of competent people in the Bay Area. I think the main issue would be, whoever replaces Elon Musk will not have the vision he has and the aggressiveness to pursue these paths of essentially making the company like a startup, pivoting. They will be more conservative, spend less on capex, on training, compute, being less aggressive with Optimus. So I mean, Tesla will be fine as a company, but in terms of its valuation and these far out projects, I think without Elon Musk, you have to find the right leader to replace him, and so that's another question mark.
Thanks. Who wants to go next? Nick, did you want to ask another question?
I just wanted to follow up on that one point because Machine, I think it is a great point to be made. Um, we're already seeing articles from Apple of what that succession plan is going to be 10 years out. And, I understand, a lot of investors are invested because of Elon, but I also think, a lot of high level executives have left. I mean, do investors want to see, hey, maybe 10 years from now, like what is the succession plan? And I do think that would ease a lot of fears with current Tesla shareholders. And I think right now, no one knows what's going to happen. So, I mean, do you think that would be a wise decision if people think that the company's going to get complacent where, people don't need to worry to set up that succession plan 10, 15 years from now so there's not all this worry and speculation going into the future?
I don't know if we're gonna know this info. Like, we don't even know Apple's succession plan, and Tim Cook is what, like almost 70 now. I don't, especially with all these executives now leaving. The key man risk has certainly increased, but I think Elon's gonna stick around for a while.
Agreed, but there's stability at Apple and all the high level executives there, whether it's Craig Federini and all these other people that are, there's articles written about who's top for the succession plan. I get there may not be a plan now and stuff that we may not know, but I do think with some of the turnover and some of the high level executives leaving, maybe it would be, better going forward, to have a little more stability at those upper levels. So they're, because I know everybody, mentioned Drew previously or other names, but I think going forward that would help ease some fears with investors, with this worry of, even Omar mentioned, we could all, anybody could die any day. So, we shouldn't worry about the what ifs. But I do think that some of these big tech companies, if we're going to consider that Tesla is the next big tech company, should behave that way at an executive level.
I want to push back a little, Nick, because I don't think that I don't agree with you what you're saying. Tesla has done what they've done with their corporation executives, and they've been very successful, arguably even more successful than anybody. Just continue that. Hire the most incredible, smartest people as possible, but there's a time limit for when they're effective and they're useful, and then you move on, right? There's a massive transformation that's happening in the company right now, where probably will always be an auto company, but now we're going to become a robotaxi services, AI, robot company. There's going to be new people need to be brought on board to run that. They're going to be effective for a short period of time. No one's going to replace Elon. No one, even if they, I know that that's not what you're saying. I know you're not saying that at all, but let's say this is the guy who's going to run the company after I leave, but it's just not going to be him. And it's going to be completely different, and people will still react the same way that they would anyways if anything happened. So it's nothing Tesla will do to appease anybody's concern. They already have a deep bench. They already have the best people. Everybody knows that already. And the company's executing like crazy already, even with all of these changes that are happening. So yes, but I just don't think it's as deficient as people are making it out to be. Go ahead, Scott. We haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that when Elon left OpenAI, that company did not shrivel and die. And we now have, SkyJoe and OpenAI doing things that appalls Elon. If Elon was to leave Tesla, because he's saying he wants to have control of it, well, if he leaves, he has absolutely no control anymore. And they have a robot, and they can start doing all sorts of things that he may be against. So if he does have that concern, he's going to stay. He's not going to leave.
Wow. Scott, where were you? That's a brilliant point. Machine?
Yeah, Scott's a smart guy. He's just probably out in the sun too much. The Florida sun, beach.
Machine, did I ever tell you that I went to Cornell?
I don't know that place. You're the smartest person from Cornell, for sure.
It's not the sun, it's the chocolate. Don't worry about it.
I was just going to add, first of all, I agree, Herbert, that no one else in the company could you even know is going to stay for 10 years to make some sort of plan that you can substitute Musk with someone else. The only way it would happen is if it was one of his children. And can you imagine all the reporters salivating, hearing there's going to be a succession plan for Elon Musk and how much FUD they could try to come up with on his kids? Are there any other emerald mines in the family they could search out for? I mean, this would be ridiculous. There's no way he would do it. It would just create more FUD.
I mean, they kind of already hit at him a little bit. They kind of dehumanized Little X a couple weeks ago. Fucking kid, man, have standards.
Yeah. So Elon has been wartime CEO, and we were watching it happen in front of our eyes. He is focused. He is focused on Tesla. Can anybody debate that? Tell me now. Is he concerned that he's going to leave the company, and if this goes down, is that what he's doing? Or what some people are saying, he's only doing this now is for show because he wants to get the vote.
I think it's just part of it. Even if he doesn't get the vote, he'll still figure out some way to gain. But sabotaging yourself by leaving, I don't see this happening, honestly. It would just ruin everything.
Yeah, Scott, I was going to ask you too.
Maybe not the company, but yeah.
Yeah, you get your hands up too. But with the bot, okay, so what your opinion, if Elon does leave, Can Tesla still sell the bot? Can they still sell 1 million of them? Will they stop selling them at all, and they won't even be able to get past step one? What's your thinking there?
My thinking is that it's, they can still do it. Maybe there's some bumps in the road, but then what it means is they might say, well, we've got this technology, we've invested a lot into it, and for shareholder value, we've got to do something about it. And the Pentagon's been knocking on our door, so yeah, let's start selling it to them. I mean, these are the scenarios that Elon is afraid of, so he's not going to allow it. So yeah, that's something I wouldn't go past. And the other thing, just regarding the press, there's a really interesting post that came out today about an article in the Detroit Free Press, which is, covers automotive news, and talking about how we get this generation of people that don't know how to drive manual sticks anymore. And the reporter in there, she's talking about, the feel of the clutch under your hand. Okay, these reporters don't know jack shit about anything. If they don't even know that the clutch is something next to your brake that you use your left foot on, they don't know what they're talking about. So, this is how the mainstream press is going. The people who are the technology reporters don't know the first thing about technology.
I thought a clutch was a purse.
Oh, yeah, clutch their purse. Yes, exactly.
I once told a millennial who went into a car and they asked me, why is there 3 pedals? I said, that one's for the third leg.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.